It won't be AI that replaces your job. It will be people using AI.
How can a set of skills lead you down the path to success? That's what we're setting out to answer on the EdUp Canada podcast. I'm your host, Michael Sangster. Join me as we unpack how leaders around the world have taken training and skills and turned that into a lasting career. Now let's learn together. Welcome back to the EdUp Canada podcast. I'm Michael Sangster, your host. We've got another episode for you, another interesting one, a bit of cutting edge research reporting that's just been recently done. And I wanted to share it with you because we were just down in Las Vegas at the NAC CQ, Career Education Colleges and Universities in the U.S., and NAC, the National Association of Career Colleges, North American Education Conference. And we were joined by a whole bunch of free-thinking, really interesting entrepreneurial people. And one of my favorites is joining us today, Mitch Talenfeld. And I say that because, Mitch, I've been following your career story you've been telling over LinkedIn, and I encourage everybody to take a peek at it because it's been a really neat way of tracking someone's career and lessons learned, mistakes made, bad polyester suits worn. There's been a lot of really good stuff there, hasn't there, Mitch?
A lot of them, a lot of mistakes, a lot of interesting history as I think back through it. Thank you very much for following it.
Oh, it's been interesting. Mitch is the CEO of MDT Marketing, an organization that's been working with NAC and CQ and done some neat stuff. He's also a board member of CQ, and he's asked a co-author, I believe would be the right way of putting it, Stephen Arthur, who co-authored a report with Mitch on AI and education that I think is worth us all reading. And then in the tradition of AI, they used AI to do a report about the report that I listened to on audio, which was good, using Notebook LM. But Stephen, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, your own experience with East Coast Polytechnic Institute?
Sure. I've been at ECPI University for about 10 years. Started as more of just an analyst sort of role. And I've, as AI and a lot of predictive modeling things have come about, I've started to really dive deeper into all of the crazy technologies that are developing now.
So before we're done, Mitch will tell you about a story about a Monday night bar we went to in Vegas. But let's talk about the real reason you guys are here, Stephen. The report you two authored and others were a part of that we're going to release to the National Association of Career College members as well, because it's equally of interest to our members in Canada. And with this episode, we're going to put it out to all of our members. But tell me a little bit about the report, Stephen, why you guys did it, and what the outcomes were.
Sure. And I would like to call out Dana Hutton, who was the third of the chairs of the task force along with me and Mitch. She was the Chief Marketing and Enrollment Manager Officer at Southeastern College. This document is how artificial intelligence is transforming higher education marketing and enrollment management. So it's essentially an overview of what is possible right now using AI by colleges and universities and other schools that are trying to incorporate AI into marketing, enrollment management, and then not just that, but also what's going on in the space and how AI is being used by other companies such as Google and Meta and some of these companies that every college interacts with all the time. As far as why we put it together, a few reasons. We wanted to show that we are a leader in the space of not just career education, but higher education in general, and show that we are at the forefront of developing technologies, of incorporating some of the most sophisticated technologies that are out there into our processes and what we do. We wanted to level up the industry as a whole, show what's possible. And this document is, like I said, it's more of an overview of what's possible right now. And there's dozens and dozens of use cases on how to use AI in the whole marketing and enrollment process. And it is very, very long, very detailed. We wanted it to be all inclusive, and it's that way. Even though we don't even get into the technical aspects of it all, we really just touch on a lot of the use cases and what's possible.
How much fear did you have, and then we'll go to Mitch, but how much fear did you guys have that it would be completely out of date the day you published it?
We were joking about that our very first meeting. From the time we started to the time we finished, it took almost a year. And I know everyone here knows what has been going on in the last year in the advancement of AI ever since really November 2022, when ChatGPT 3.5 exploded onto the scene. And it's just gotten more and more advanced since then.
I applauded the approach you took because I think it was the right way to do it, to look at the art of the possible, almost, so to speak, about what's out there, but not try and get into the line details of things. Mitch, what did you find from your own perspective in this report around education and AI?
So let me start with a broader thought process. So here it is, December 2022. And I hear about this thing, ChatGPT, and I had absolutely no idea what it was. And I jumped on and I started playing with it. And within 10 minutes, I realized our world was about to change. Everything in it. I had been following a gentleman by the name of Peter Diamandis. He has a podcast, Moonshots. It used to be Moonshots and Mindsets. I encourage anybody and everybody to listen to it. He had been talking about this day in time that was going to happen. So one of the reasons I got involved in this is Peter has a saying. He says, it won't be AI that replaces your job. It will be people using AI. And people and organizations using AI. So why, getting back to the question you asked, Steve, and the broader picture, one of the reasons I ran for the board, the CQ board, was I believe that it was critical for us to put together a report to help schools, colleges, and universities to take advantage of this, not just to be better and more efficient, but to be able to reorganize their operations in ways that I don't think most people realized they would have to be doing. So I got on the board. I got permission to create this task force. This task force is, by the way, the 5th task force I've been co-chair of, and the 4th report we've put out in the association. And I started recruiting people and talked to 3 people, Robert Kaiser University, who initially wanted to take on the co-chair, help me organize the whole process and the way we went. And then from that point, he gave me permission to speak with Dana Hutton, and Stephen and I go way back also. Those are the key people that I knew would help us bring this through, take it over the finish line. So
nuts and bolts for you. Biggest learning that you came out of this process, having known AI to some extent. What's your biggest learning, Mitch?
Oh, I'm learning something every single day. Every single day.
There's no one thing in AI that you learned in this report. It's the big picture, huh?
It's the big picture. 2.5 weeks ago, Google came out with a major announcement that just changed the face of SEO. Our entire agency is rethinking some of the things that we're thinking about. AI is changing the world. A couple months before that, OpenAI came out with the video series, The 12 Days of OpenAI, and we realized that came through what they announced is unbelievable. So what have I learned? I learned new ways to do things on a daily, weekly basis that give me the ability to be able to do so much more, so much better in life.
It's crazy. We'll get to some other issues that I won't say the negatives, but we'll get to some other issues in a minute. But I finished a simple call with a colleague the other day, chatted for about an hour, and I left with about 5 action items. Would have taken me a couple of days. If I wasn't done them all in an hour, but using AI, I'd be shocked if it took an hour, to be honest with you. It's incredible, even for a guy who knows very little, how powerful a tool it is. So
it's amazing.
Talk to me, Stephen, a little bit about maybe from a perspective of your own institution, of ways that you're using it, or you see education institutes successfully using AI tools?
Oh yeah, our document goes into a lot of them. I would say probably one of the first one that comes to mind, one of the first ones that we really started playing around with was a compliance tool, where we created this tool that allowed us to put in all of the rules that was allowed to be said and not be said in our marketing material. There's a lot of things that we're not allowed to talk about, like student outcomes, even halfway promising the outcomes that a student might have after they graduate. We can't even say that they're going to get it into a particular career necessarily. So there's a lot of things that we're not really allowed to say. And this tool, we put it in there and gave it to our marketing team. And then every time they came up with new marketing copy, whether it's for the website, for advertisements, or anything, they could put that copy into this tool, and then it would tell them whether or not it is safe. And if it's not, then here are some suggestions on how to change it to be compliant and why those changes were being recommended.
It's interesting you went to compliance, and I'm going to pivot here a little bit, but one of the things that we did at NAC, and this was just out of me seeing one individual do something, but we've now banned AI note takers in all meetings, all board committees, and our staff are not allowed to participate in meetings where there's an AI note taker. And I proposed this to our board, put it forward, and 4 or 5 of them got different people put your hand up. Well, no, that's the only way I work. I need it. But they didn't understand the risk or the exposure to their own organization or to our confidentiality of a board until we walked through it. So I'm interested in either one of you. Maybe Mitch, you want to jump in on that. But I thought the note takers it's just one AI tool, right? But that's one that made me very anxious for a lot of reasons.
Well, I have to tell you, all of us, and it's just a reality of life, get used to it. I met a guy, a vice president of a major technology company in 2002, who told me, when you're in public, you're in play. And what he was saying is there's videos everywhere. And today, people can have a little pin on their lapel. They can have a tie clip. This year, Google's coming back out with their Google glasses. Things that people every day are being recorded, people recording everything, videoing everything. So I understand why you're saying what you are, and I believe that you're approaching it in the right way, but don't expect that what you say is private.
If I was attending university right now, that would have been a nightmare under the what's going on now. Just the beer parties alone would have caused me reputational damage, and we're not talking about AI.
You're already in trouble with me, buddy, and we don't have to talk about that now.
We won't repeat the nickname that you gave me on the last day of the conference. But Stephen, I thought you maybe were about to jump in there with something.
Yeah, one of the themes throughout the compliance section of our document is that a lot of this is weighing the risks of using AI and putting information company, even confidential, maybe your proprietary information into these AI systems. But you have to weigh that risk against the benefits. There are huge benefits too. And, it's going to be down to every school, every company. Everyone will have to decide what their risk tolerance is on that. But I concur with Mitch in that, if you're not using AI in a lot of your roles, it's going to come anyway. So you might as well start adapting, start figuring out how to deal with it.
I was just uncomfortable with the losing the confidentiality of a board discussion, because who knows where that recording goes, right? That's the one thing. Talk about it. You guys talk about it in the report.
Sure. And yeah, that's another thing that we mentioned too, is that it depends, which company you're using as your note taker matters. If you're using Teams, Microsoft Teams or Zoom, those companies have built-in note takers that, they're the ones that are powering your meetings anyway. So you might as well let them, do that sort of note taking for you. Or, there's startups popping up everywhere right now in the age of AI. It's the Wild West, similar to the late 90s of the internet, where everyone is just doing whatever they want right now. And we recommend doing a very good due diligence on any AI company you try to partner with, because if they don't have a history of successful business, then they may not even stay around forever. They may have some iffy data protection standards. So if you go with companies like OpenAI,
somebody else may buy them and now be in
exactly.
charge of your data.
So if you go with more established companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, Zoom, some of these more established companies that are more trusted with that sort of data, then maybe that's a way to reduce your risk tolerance.
I don't want to make light of the weekend at all, but thank God that all tech CEOs in the U.S. are completely stable at all times. Their personalities, right? I don't want to suggest that occasionally, Elon Musk might not be the most stable.
I thought, oh, well, hold on. We're not getting political here. So
we have to have a little fun once in a while. You know that, Mitch. So we'll go back to the report. I'm intrigued of the institutions you spoke to. Where do you think they are on the bleeding curve here, the bleeding edge? Are you finding it? Are they at the start edge, or is it a whole mix of institutions of where they are in integrating AI?
All over the board, and most people, oh, yeah, we use AI. I use AI. And if you ask one or two questions that dig into that a little bit, and I can tell you they are not using AI in a way that they need to be using AI. The impact, the negative impact for anybody today, any organization not assertively using AI, deliberately using AI, and almost every aspect of their organization, the impact is going to be devastating because they will be behind. If you think about it right now, students, people can learn via utilizing AI in ways that are better than a lot of schools can be teaching them. And actually, Stephen can talk to this pretty effectively. But the bottom line is, if you want to know something about any subject whatsoever, if you're looking at it and you're viewing something, you could take AI and video and put on the video, and it'll talk to you about what's going on around you. You can ask it questions. It'll tell you what's going on. You can do deep research. You could put something in either Gemini's research program or inside of ChatGPT's deep research. Click a button, ask a couple questions, and it'll give you a 35-page report that would have taken months and maybe cost you $50,000 to do. It can be done in moments. Everybody needs to be learning everything they can about AI, because it's basically what they're going to be. If they don't, they're going to be out of work in a very short period of time.
I concur with Mitch. I mean, I would say that a lot of schools are using it well. A lot of schools are not. And even within organizations, you have people that are using it well and people that are not. One of the hardest things that I've run into as far as getting adoption across UCPI University and using AI in as many use cases as possible is just remembering that you can use it. When it first came out, one of the first things I did was I disabled Google.com from my browser, so that anytime I had a question about anything that I wanted to Google, it would force me to go to ChatGPT. And by doing that over and over and over, that trained me. I trained myself to think AI first in everything that I'm doing. And that's what I recommend to everybody else too. If they're struggling to find use cases for it, it's not hard to come up with them once you start remembering that, that should be your first place to go for everything you're trying to do.
That's a really interesting, that just triggered me because I'm just dabbling, and that would force you to every day look at it in a different light and use the tools that pop out of it, right?
That's right.
Well, right now, Stephen, 1 point, Mitch, 0. Stephen's bringing value.
I could tell you there is no question about it. Stephen is our hero. Stephen and Dana are my heroes. So let's start from there.
I should be clear to our listeners, Mitch and I have a little fun with each other, but we get along well. And I have a deep respect for him and the company he's built. But I do have to take my digs too when I get my chances with Mitch.
Absolutely.
Because he would do the same thing too. A really interesting conversation for me. What thing I find interesting, and you kind of answered where I was going to go, but that first step for someone, and maybe that's it, but what do you think is the best first step for a career college in integrating some AI tool into their operation? Because they're entrepreneurs, they're busy, they're trying to figure out, they don't have an AI expert in the corner they can pull out and say, okay, now go do this, right? So is it investing in a person? Is it that urgent that you got to bring somebody in now or train somebody now who knows these tools? Or is it do one thing first?
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend, and our document recommends too, start with one thing and then go from there. I would try to instill, like I said, an AI first mentality in anyone that you can. And if schools are having trouble getting started, I would say one of the best ways to show people what it really can do and convince them that it's worth using is to find use cases for them that make their life easier. I can't tell you how many times I have, like, as I'm the director of AI for ECPI, so not just in the marketing, enrollment, and admission side, but also in the academics and career services and financial aid and every department. And as I'm doing trainings with all of these teams, you can talk about all of these different use cases all you want, but until they see it actually impact their day-to-day life and make things faster for them, they don't really get it. One of the biggest problems with using AI is just not just remembering to use it, but then realizing, like, having the imagination on how to use it. I go to all of our department heads all the time and say, if you could wave a magic wand and have something magically done for you and your department and for your people, what would it be? And turns out over half of the things they come up with that they think are wildly impossible are actually doable. So, it's just a matter of having at least one person in your organization that really knows this stuff and can help others, become champions in their own teams, and then trying to expand it from there.
Well, it's interesting. In my other life, I own a restaurant and with some partners, and we're using AI tools to write manuals now that would have taken us forever to write. And it's like 5 minutes later and you change 20 words, tone it the way you want it toned, but it's quite interesting. Go ahead, Mitch.
Let me add on to what Stephen, by the way, Stephen's answer is excellent. Let me talk to you about how those who can't afford to hire that AI expert, they can pattern themselves after how our organization developed or learned, and this was together in January, our first meeting, January 2023. After I learned about ChatGPT, I devoted a half hour to every hour meeting for the first, I want to say, 5 months from that moment forward. And we adopted an AI first culture in our company. And every meeting, we discussed, they had a project as part of what they did was to go out there and play, come up with use cases, do some research, and come up with tools and ideas that could help each other out. And as we went along, the first person who was way ahead of many of us, our head of search engine optimization, had already figured out how to get projects that were taking him 3 and 4 months, was able to do them in 3 and 4 days. And it was just amazing as we started stories, the impact on our video, personalized video program, on our lead nurturing program, on every time. Stephen's suggestion was absolutely correct. Everybody, if you're not using AI, having a screen open with AI, your favorite AI on it, ChatGPT, Jevity, and everything you do, no matter what, thinking about something, doing research on something, if you're not entering it into ChatGPT for ideas or say, what's wrong with this idea? I've got an idea I think is great. Give me the reasons why it's bad. It will come back and tell you why it's bad. You can use it for so many different ways. Sales training, you name it, there's an application for it.
That was a bit inspiring, Mitch. I'm intrigued. I like that AI first culture. Play with it. That is a good way of thinking about how to bring it into the organization. So we're gonna pivot here completely here. We're gonna ask you each one question. We usually ask our guests 2 questions, but we'll give you one each. So I'm gonna start with you, Stephen. Tell me about a skill, because we've got a lot of learners, our students that listen to the podcast. Talk to me about a skill that you've developed that makes you successful, that they should think about investing some time and energy in. And then, is it something you already have, or is it something you developed over your career? I'll give you an example. I said in a podcast last week, I can open any door and walk in and start talking to people. I'm comfortable. It gets me into a lot of trouble, but it has also, I think, made me successful because I don't hesitate to interact with people.
It's a very valuable skill. I would say for me, as a more technical person, I suppose, I went to college for aerospace engineering, and in that role, or in that degree program, there is a lot of calculus. And the essence of calculus is change over time, essentially. Looking at things not as they are, but as they are developing and as they are changing. And I think looking at the world in that lens has been a massive skill for me that I've tried to make sure I keep going. Not just looking at first order effects, but also second and third order effects, and how it, changing something will not just, make it the change you think it is, because there's also going to be some unintended side effects, the law of unintended consequences. And, looking at that helps you develop how you see incentives and how that changes how people act. So I would say, looking at the world in the lens of changes over time and not just a static worldview.
Interesting perspective. I like that.
Can I translate that into English? There's something that we all would understand, and it wouldn't be just for a rocket scientist. One of the things that I can tell you about Stephen is he's one of the most curious people I know. He asks questions about everything, all sorts of things. He thinks about pros, cons, what ifs, what if that, what if this. I think the most important skill for our children and for each of us is curiosity, all sorts of questions.
I can't agree with you more. You just reminded me of a little side story here, but last week in Canada, we lost one of our former astronauts, Mark Garneau, who was on the space shuttle on the space station. And he then went into politics and was in the House of Commons one day, and he was a minister, and I can't remember what portfolio he was in at the time, and he was in question period, and an opposition member asked him a question and said to him, "This isn't rocket science." And he answered the question by saying, "I know it isn't, because I am a rocket scientist." One of the great moments in our House of Commons, and the guy who asked the question immediately knew he should never mention rocket science. But so I'll go to you, Mitch, and then we'll let Stephen add a comment on yours. A mentor, because we think one of the most important parts of the career college sector, the career education sector, is the mentoring that goes on in those small classrooms. And even if it's a campus the size of Kaiser, small classes, little groups, really working together. So tell me about somebody who mentored you and changed your path.
Well, that is a great question. And it's very interesting that you happen to mention Kaiser University. Because
really?
I can tell you that two people in my life that I consider mentors, my brother being one of them, and Art Kaiser, Dr. Kaiser being the other one. I'll never forget Dr. Kaiser, in about, I guess, probably 2001 or two, asked me a question about the sector. And I said, "How should I know?" He said to me, "Talenfeld, if you want to be a player in career college education, you need to understand anything and everything you can about this sector, the sector you work in." And from that point forward, I began a journey learning everything I could. I got involved in the Florida Association Post-Secondary Schools and Colleges. I ended up being on the board for 11 years. I left there. I got onto the CQ board, and there's a lot of things that I learned about in between those, and I got knee-deep involved. So if I would talk about a mentor who has changed my life, Dr. Kaiser, and he's been there every step of the way, helping me out on a personal level.
Now, here's the question we follow up with. Do you think he knows?
I think he knows.
It's always interesting whether you think your mentors know they were a mentor or not. I had a great situation when someone told me he was my mentor. He wasn't. You, Stephen, a quick one?
I'd say probably the biggest person that had an impact in my, not just personal, but professional life is probably my father. And he's been in career education longer than I've been alive. So he had a big impact on me and helped me develop.
That's awesome. Before we conclude, anything else that either one of you want to say? I got to tell you this, we will publish the report alongside this podcast. But is there anything that either one of you want to say before we sign off?
Just that, with a lot of hard work went into developing this document with a lot of very talented and forward-looking people. Mitch and I have mentioned Dana Hutton and Robert Kaiser, but also there was dozens of more people that helped work on this thing and put it together. It couldn't have been done without them. So definitely take a look at it, because you will find at least a dozen things that you probably didn't know you could do with AI in marketing and enrollment management.
I've just started to scrape the report just starting to read it. It's quite good. Mitch?
So here I was, my arm twisted to go to this Monday night event in Las Vegas of the Canada Association. Michael, he said, I got to go. And I got there about 20 minutes early.
Very early to this bar that I thought was one of the icon locations in all of Las Vegas. And I go walking in and I get hit with a wall of cigarette smoke, a dark, gloomy place. And before I got there, the Uber driver's driving around trying to figure out where the front door is to start with. And he didn't want to drop me off there. So that was my welcome into Las Vegas and a good introduction to my good friend who's been my good friend for a while, Michael. And I thank you. It turned out to be a great event. I loved your LinkedIn post. Don't judge a book by its cover. The cover of that book was stained and had cigarette smells to it, but inside we as always had a good time. But it was a funny story. Did a little bit of digging. I'm a fan of a show called Bar Rescue, and I'd seen an episode years ago where they rescued that bar and turned it back to what it was in the 50s. Unfortunately, I think in the last couple of years, it may not have kept up to the rescue, and it was a little run down, but we did have a good time and discovered a few new drinks that we'd never had before, like bee's knees. But with that, I will thank both of you for joining us today, but more importantly, thank you for doing the work. Please pass on to Dana the same, because this is the kind of stuff that our members, the benefit of being a member of an association like NAC and CQ is to be a part of and get access to people like you, but documents like this that help us get better. Because the misunderstanding, I don't know if I just made up a George Bush kind of word there, but about our sector is that it's all about the money. And it really isn't in the career education sector, and some do very well. But it is really about the student and the families and the graduations. And all you got to do is go to one graduation and see a 40-year-old who's the first one graduating from post-secondary education. You realize the places are different. And Stephen, I see you nodding. I've not been to your institution, but I bet you it's the exact same for you, right?
Our graduation is one of the loudest things you will ever hear. I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say that it hurts your ears because they're so excited and yelling and in celebration at the end of the graduation.
Yeah. The best description I've heard is that the career education sector puts branches on a family tree. It gives people the courage to get married and start a new family and have kids and actually have a career instead of a job. And I love the
100%.
grad. I will go to any grad I can and speak or just attend and be in the crowd and watch that. So Mitch, Stephen, thank you very much for joining us today. What a great conversation. And I encourage everybody to take a look. Read the report. It will put it alongside the podcast, as I've said, and ask some questions. Talk to some people. Try one thing. I'm going to get rid of Google. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to get rid of Google, put ChatGPT, because it's the second place I go right now. And why is it the second place when it could be the first?
That's right.
So thank you, gentlemen. I look forward to seeing you in the fall, Mitch. Maybe we'll make sure Stephen gets up to Vancouver. Good news for you, Mitch. There's no smoking in our bars in Canada.
Well, that's too bad.
Look forward to it, gentlemen. And with that, we will end this week's edition of the EdUp Canada podcast. Stay tuned next week for another edition. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to another episode of the EdUp Canada podcast. We release new episodes regularly, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know when they are officially out. If you love this episode, please leave a 4- or 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts so that others can also discover how a set of skills can lead to success. Thanks for learning with us.